Imagine saving for 5 years to buy your dream home, only for a bunch of spoiled rich heirs to snatch it away out of sheer greed. But what if I told you we turned their greed against them? This is the story of how we reverse gazumped a group of millionaire landlords and made them choke on their own arrogance. If you've ever been cheated, underestimated, or watched the rich crush the hardworking just because they could, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready, because this is one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll hear today. 15 years ago, I watched my best friend's world fall apart, and then we built it back, one act of delicious revenge at a time. My best friend, Sarah, and her husband Dave were raising 5 kids in one of the most expensive cities in the country. Their life wasn't glamorous, far from it. They rented this old, worn-out 4-bedroom house for about $400 a week. The kitchen was a nightmare, the drains reeked like something had died in them, and the wallpaper looked like it had survived 3 decades of bad taste. But it was home, and more importantly, it was affordable. Their landlord, Mrs. Thompson, was this sweet, elderly woman, old money, gentle voice, the kind of person who baked for her tenants and remembered every grandkid's name. She adored Sarah's family. She even froze their rent for 5 whole years and made a promise. Once you've saved enough, you can buy this house. No rush, no pressure. She had done it before for other families, so Sarah trusted her completely. And for 5 long, exhausting years, they saved. Every penny. No vacations, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary. Dave picked up extra shifts, and Sarah sold homemade crafts online just to make it work. They had a dream, and it was finally within reach. Then, 2 days after they told Mrs. Thompson they were ready to buy, she passed away. No contract, no paperwork, just a promise that died with her. When her 4 children inherited her massive property portfolio, they seemed polite at first, sympathetic even. They told Sarah and Dave not to worry, that they'd honor their mother's word. They just needed to wait until probate finished. So my friends believed them. They started sprucing the place up, painting, stripping old wallpaper, fixing leaky taps. They were making it their forever home. Months later, probate finally cleared. The new owners called to confirm the sale could go through. Sarah and Dave applied for their bank loan, and that's when the first gut punch landed. The loan officer called back with confusion in his voice. He said, "The asking price doesn't match what you said." The heirs had quietly raised the price by $80,000 and never told them. Worse, the house was now listed for public sale, open house, in 7 days. 7 days, and then it would be gone. I still remember the night Sarah called me. Her voice cracked between words. "What are we gonna do?" she said. "If we lose this house, we'll never find another, not with 5 kids." She was right. Rents had skyrocketed while theirs stayed frozen. Other landlords wanted almost double for the same space. If this house sold to someone else, they'd be forced into some tiny apartment, or worse, split the family apart. And the worst part, those heirs didn't need the money. They were already filthy rich. Old family money, trust funds, country club memberships. This wasn't about survival. It was about greed, about squeezing every last cent from a struggling family, just because they could. I remember hanging up that call, pacing my kitchen, and feeling something white-hot rising in my chest. Anger. The kind of anger that makes your pulse hammer in your ears. I wasn't just mad, I was furious. So while Sarah and Dave scrambled to find financing, I started plotting. I started by researching what helps a house sell, and decided to do the exact opposite. We weren't going to damage anything or do anything illegal. We were just going to make the property less appealing. We called it Operation Ugly House. Realtors love open, bright rooms, so we reversed that. We moved every piece of furniture off the walls, cluttered the corners, even borrowed a few bulky items from neighbors. Dave hung up all his motorcycle memorabilia, Helmets, posters, leather jackets. The cozy family home suddenly looked like a biker clubhouse. Nothing kills a sale faster than a bad smell. Sarah boiled cabbage on the stove the night before and sprayed ammonia around the doors, just enough to make it seem like a pack of feral cats lived there. Then, for the piece de résistance, we poured 24 rotten eggs down the drains. Within hours, that place smelled like something straight out of a sewer nightmare. Next, we made the neighborhood look questionable. With permission, we dragged an old, moldy couch onto the neighbor's front yard across the street, added a few empty beer cans for effect. Then we made some calls. Friends with loud, rattling cars drove up and down the street during the open house. Some revved their engines, some honked for fun. The street that was usually calm suddenly looked like rush hour chaos. And then came the final touch. We called our mates from the rugby club. Big, burly guys with tattoos, loud voices, and hearts of gold. The neighbor agreed to host a barbecue in his front yard, and we supplied cheap beer and free food. Soon, the place looked like a biker rally meets block party. Laughter, shouting, smoke from the grill, everything an uptight buyer would hate. By noon, cars lined both sides of the street. Strangers craned their necks, probably wondering what kind of circus they'd wandered into. Potential buyers stepped into the house and were hit by that pungent, rotting drain and cat pee aroma. I watched one woman wrinkle her nose, look around for 10 seconds, and bolt straight out the door. Another couple lasted a little longer, whispering as they stared at the cluttered rooms. And then came my favorite part. One brave man started chatting with one of the rugby guys as he left the house. "So, you guys live around here?" he asked. The guy, beer in hand, grinned. "Yeah, mate. Every couple weeks we do a morning after party here. Last night's was just 3 doors down. Crazy good time." Then, as if scripted, he added, "Oh, watch out for those drains. Always backing up. Whole street smells like hell when it rains." The man's face fell faster than a dropped brick. He left without another word. And just like that, every single potential buyer was gone. Every one. Except Sarah and Dave. By the end of the day, they were the only ones to make an offer. The heirs had no choice but to negotiate with them directly. The final price? Still higher than the original agreement, but nowhere near the 80 grand increase they'd wanted. Sarah and Dave signed the papers and paid the deposit that same day. 2 days later, the greedy heirs finally got a call from their agent telling them another buyer had come in with an offer 30,000 higher. But it was too late. The sale was already locked. Strict anti-gazumping laws meant there was nothing they could do. I would have paid good money to see their faces when they realized their greed had fired spectacularly. That house became the home Sarah and Dave always dreamed of. They raised all 5 kids there, finally renovated the kitchen, fixed the drains, and built a life rooted in something money could never buy: security, peace, and pride. And those heirs? They got exactly what they deserved. Nothing but regret and a smelly open house to remember us by. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about balance. When the greedy try to take from the good, karma doesn't need a hammer. It just needs a little help and maybe some rotten eggs. If that revenge made you grin, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what's the most satisfying karma you've ever witnessed. And if you love stories where justice gets served with a side of creativity, subscribe for more. You won't want to miss the next one.